Does your old pancake air compressor sound like it's having an air leak somewhere in this area? That sounds like this. And you think your only choice is to throw it in the garbage and buy a new one? There may be another solution. Hello. In today's video, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm actually going to be fixing something. Instead of building something, I'm going to be fixing this Porter cable compressor that I've had for probably over 15 years, maybe a bit longer. These days still sell these similar type of compressors at the big box stores like Home Depot. And one of the issues was it sounded like the valve was never closing every time it would shut off, when it reached the pressure that it needed to reach. It always sounded like there was an open valve. Air was still continually coming out. I thought I'd open it up and see how we can fix it. So that's what I'm doing today. I've actually gone to the point of taking the compressor out of it and the motor and the compressor itself out of the out of this unit and figured out what the problem was. So that's what I'm going to show you through this video. I'm going to attempt to fix it. Whether or not I'll succeed, that is the question. I did buy the kit for replacing the seal. I tried fixing it without a new seal kit and using some silicone and such, but of course the pressure on this is way too high for the silicone to hold the air in, so I went out and bought the kit that you can buy for this on Amazon. I'll put the link down below. It's only $16 or $17 Canadian, so it's probably cheaper in the US, and we'll see if we can get this thing fixed. Now, to start taking the compressor apart, you'll have to take 5 of these Torx head screws out. 5 of them like that, and I'll show you the bit that you'll need. So T20 Torx head screwdriver bit. I'll leave a link down below again, just so that it's easy to find. You don't have to buy it from there, but at least you'll see what it looks like. I'm just using an attachment on the screwdriver. So you do need quite a long piece extension on your screwdriver in order to reach them, or at least 3 of them. And then you'll also have to take out 2 of these Phillips screw heads here, or Phillips hybrid screw heads. Tank. Okay, so the first Phillips screw head is below the switch area on this bracket. You'll see underneath here. I don't know if I have enough lighting. The screw is just on this side here. Yeah, I don't have enough lighting in there, but it's way in there. So that's just the first Phillips screw on the front side of the compressor, if we call this the front, with the regulators and the switch. And then there's the second one on the back side. You can get a better look here. Right there. So that's just going to allow so that you can slide this whole compressor gray unit off of the tank to make it easier to work on. I'll start by removing the first screw here. So now we'll be able to, once we take it apart, I'll take these screws out first and then we'll be able to slide it off. There's little slides on, actually slide it off that way. There's actually little slides on this unit here that slides off of these welded brackets. Now next is to take the 5 Torx screws out. So there's 3 in these deep holes here, and that's why I mentioned we need to have this long extension, or at least a long screwdriver with the Torx end. And then there's 2 way underneath there as well, kind of like there's a track here and there's a track there to get to the screws. So we'll take those 5 out. And they do come out quite easily. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, it does have like little slides or grooves in this plastic part. So taking those screws out allows me now to slide it. Once those screws are in, you can't slide it out, it stops it. So we'll just give this a little slide. Now this hose does have some flexibility to it. And now you can see it's disconnected from the tank, except for, of course, this hose connected. And of course, the hose to the front regulator is still connected as well. So we'll deal with that in a minute. Now for this fix, I'm not going to be taking all the hoses off because that's going to be a real pain. You would have to get a special tool to make sure it's compression sealed and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not touching that. Now I could screw it out of the tank as well. There is that option there to screw that out and then also to screw the regulator out. But I'm always worried too that, they did put a good seal on there. That's still nicely sealed. I don't want to play around with that. If I can work at it from this area itself, then I'll do that. So Now we can take this off and take this apart. So this side comes off. You can see that's just a sort of a plastic, just a plastic shell. That's where all the components sort of sit in. And here we have the compressor. The piston is over on this side. You got your belt-driven pulley, I guess, to run the compressor up the piston up and down. And then you have your electric motor here. So that's very, very simple layout. You do have to make sure you don't lose these little rubber bumpers because you do have to put those back in there. And there should be, I believe, 4 of these. So top, bottom, this side, and the other side, of course. So now we could pull this out. Now, before I pull it out, you actually want to disconnect this yellow wire here. I'll try to get a closer shot. So yeah, so before you want to pull this out, you want to take this yellow wire off, and they just slide right off. Reason being, it's not very long, and it's connected to the switch, the pressure switch over on the other side. So that will make it easier for you to pull the whole thing out. You can pull this out. This is the main wire. You got your ground here, and you got your black and white there. So now we should be able to slide this out. Now you won't be able to go too far. Stop it here, because there's another wire. There's another wire that's a bit short as well. Without breaking the fan, try to have it sit down there without breaking anything. Let me get the camera in closer again. So this wire here, the black wire, is kind of short. So you want to pull that black wire off as well. So that again just slides off, and that's going to the main switch. So the yellow one is coming from the pressure switch. I'll show you that in a moment. You'll get a clearer view. And this one's going directly to the power switch, which is this switch right here, of course. And before working on any of this kind of stuff, make sure you unplug it from the power. So I'm just going to pull that black wire off there. I don't know if I'll be able to get a good shot. You just got to wiggle it. Try to grab the red. There we go. Grab it by the red part here, not by the wire, so you don't break the connection there, so we can reuse it. And now we should be able to get this out a little bit further, or actually completely separate from that unit. There we go. Again, don't lose these little rubber things here. So now we have it completely separate. Okay, so I want to show you where the problem is arising. The air was coming out of this area here. As you can see, I had some silicone on there, and that didn't hold. I had put silicone inside this area. So yeah, so this is kind of flexible. There's a rubber ring inside. I'll show you the parts for that in a moment. But so that way this thing could be a little bit flexible when it's vibrating and so forth, but I don't think it's supposed to be that flexible. And yeah, so that seal went, and then of course when I was playing around with it, I ended up breaking the gasket itself a little bit, right where that rubber seal is found as well. So when I filled it up, I took this apart and I filled it up with silicone in that area, let it cure, figured it'd be maybe strong enough to hold it with the rubbering still in place. But yeah, it did not work. So yeah, we'll take this apart. I'll show you the next step. Okay, for the next step, you need an 8mm socket. And again, it helps if you had a longer one, but this is the only 8mm that I have, and I'm just going to connect it to my screwdriver. And we'll take the 4 bolts that are holding the head, the head to the piston there. Oop, there's the other one. Just to clarify, before I forget, there are actually 5 of these rubber things here, so make sure you don't lose those. Again, I guess there was a 5th, there's 2 on the one side. Okay, so we're just going to take these 4 bolts here, again with 8mm socket. Okay, so we got those 4 bolts out. Now we're just going to lift this off. And you have here sort of like a valve system. I had cleaned it all off as good as I can, but I guess I got dirty again. And as you can see, this popped out because this gasket here, Just take this off. This is the piston there and its cylinder. This gasket here ended up breaking. This should be all in one piece together, and that's what was holding this little rubber seated in there. And the gasket went over top, and of course then you have your valve system holding that down, so it was good in place. See that there? So that little rubber fits in this little groove. I don't know if you can see that in the camera there. The little rubber ring will sit in that little groove there. Again, the gasket holds that over, and then this holds that in place, and then you just screw it all onto there. Whoops, the wrong way. This one, I hope if I put the thing on the right way, make sure it'll do that when I actually put it together finally. But it's easy to see because this hair has the ring that goes on the ring of the cylinder here for the piston. So, and then that just clamps onto there. So let's get to the next step, which I haven't done yet. So like I said, I've gone to this point where I tried to put the silicone in there to help hold it all together and hopefully seal it, but it didn't work. So now I bought the gasket, so we'll see if we can change them over and see if that does the trick. So we're just going to take this gasket off here. Stuck on there quite good over time with rust and heat and everything else. I'll need something to scrape that off and sand it down a bit. So this is a woodworking shop, not a mechanic shop, so I'm using the best sandpaper I can get hands on here. Okay, so I sanded it down as best as I can to clean it off, paying attention not to wreck these valves here, these little pressure valves. I'm just trying to get to see which angle I might have to be here. I might have something to hold it up without breaking anything. Alright, so I kind of jimmy rigged it with a clamp and a piece of tape just to help hold it up so that I can then put this on here. Put the, oops, would help if I put it the right way. Like so. Luckily I have the little notch there so I know which way it needs to go. And then that's going to go on top of the piston like so, of course. So you have those three little finger valves on the top part. And we'll just leave that sit there. We'll line up the holes as best as we can because I know that the next stage will be the difficult part. So I'm going to take off this little orange rubber ring off here. Clean that off a little bit. Get that silicone that I put on there off nice and clean. There. Because that's where I need to put this little, ooh, interesting. It's going to be a little bit trickier to get this on. It's tight. Doesn't matter which side I put it or anything. Just got to get it to stretch over that there. I'm going to try and get this rubber over this screwdriver because the screwdriver outer perimeter is the same size as the hose here. So if I can get it on here, then I'll be able to slide it over top there and then just slide it over. That's the plan anyways. So let me give that a try. There we go. It's easier to work something that you can push against the table. So step one. Now step two is to see if I can get it on to the hose here. Again, I hope I can show you, but there we go. We got her, folks. So trick, use a screwdriver that has the same diameter as your pipe and then push against it and then just slide it over and you'll get it on. There we go. All right, on to the next step. Okay, got this one all cleaned off. Again, this is the gasket that will go on there like so. Now, again, the issue is I have to make sure I put that in there first and then put that over top and then clamp it down using those 4 screws, which I'll go get first. without twisting this too much so that this ends up being broken or something. So that's the trickiest part. Give this a try. So first thing I'm going to do is get this into the slot. I'll show you what it looks like first from this side. Hopefully I can see that in the camera. So it slides into that little area there. It actually holds quite good now compared to the other one was just moving all over the place. So that would be a reason why it was leaking. It was just leaking around there. So the air, of course, gets sucked in here, and then the piston sucks that when the piston goes down, it gets sucked into here. Then you got these little valves that open and close, and then when the piston comes up at high pressure, it goes out into here and goes into the pipe into the tank. So simple as that. And of course, if there's a leak here, then all that you're losing most of that air from going to the tank. It's coming out of this. All right, I changed the battery in the camera because I'm not sure if you got all this, but yeah, so this will go in there, and now I have to put the gasket. Doesn't look like there's any specific side that it needs to go on. And eventually, essentially, is to get this on there. As long as this can turn, that's the main thing, because I forget which way it needs to go into the compressor compartment there. I'm going to just put those 4 bolts back into place. I'll just hand tight them first to socket here just to get it all lined up because we have the gaskets. Got 2 gaskets and middle plate. We got this hose that's trying to pull everything around here. So now we're just going to do the reverse. We're going to put it back in the same way we took it out, but just in reverse steps, putting this back into there, making sure we have all the rubber bumpers on there, putting the wires back on, putting the wire back in, and just making sure that it's all in the right place, and then sliding it in, putting the last 2 screws in, putting those 5 bolts in, and we should be good to go. The porter cable compressor is now all in one piece, so we're going to give it a try to see if that new gasket and ring has done the trick. Not too bad. I think it is working. No more noise coming from that area. Woohoo! Little bit. There's probably a leakage, but very, very little compared to before. It sounds like it may be coming out of around the piston now. But much, much better. It's holding the pressure. Before it would be leaking out, as you heard from the beginning, and this would be going down, down. This one here would be going down, 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 losing pressure, and it'd come back on, and constantly going on and off, even though I wasn't using it. So it's a working. Gotta like it. So I'm going to put it through a test. I'm going to let some air out, and then we'll see if it starts up on its own to make sure that it's working. That everything is working. I got this on here. Let's see at what pressure it comes back on. Oh, perfect. Now there's no leaking whatsoever. First time was a little bit. Might have been where the piston stopped, might have made a difference, but now there's absolutely no sound. And the startup seems like it's starting up at 125 and then it stops at around 152-ish. and it's holding. So there you have it. It's hot in here. Oh, gotta cool down. It works. It's like having a brand new compressor for $17. So it took about, if I were to do this straight without having to film and I had the experience now, probably taking about a half hour to take it all apart, put the new gaskets in, put it back together, and you'd have yourself a brand new compressor. So don't throw that old one out if it happens to be a similar type of sound. Like I said, it sounds like it was leaking air. It's an actually pretty easy fix. Now, if it was another part of that head of that compressor, there are other parts available on Amazon as well, such as the head itself or that valve thing also. And I believe for us here in Canada, they were about $31 each, so it would be around $60. So under $100, you can repair the whole thing. Is it worth it compared to buying a new one? Probably. The new one's probably running around, I'm not sure, I'll put it down, I'll put a picture up here, but I'm thinking it's around $200, close to $300 Canadian. Anyway, so for $100 or under $100, you can fix it to be like a brand new one anyways, because the tank will last pretty much forever as long as you drain it once in a while. And this thing you can also replace if that were to break. The only other thing would be the motor, which I doubt would go at any point. You can change the brushes on there as well. You can keep this going at least another 15, 20 years. If it does, maybe I'll make another video when I fix it again at that point. But hey, I hope you found this video to be helpful. If so, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, why not subscribe to our channel so you see other stuff that we usually make stuff here. We don't usually fix stuff, but this needed to be fixed. So I thought, hey, maybe this will help somebody out. And if it helps just one person, it means I've done my job. So that's it for this video. Take care.